Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down this Week 2 NFL Thursday Night Showdown slate between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. Probably one of the better Thursday night games we're going to get all year long. A lot of high scoring potential. I'm going to go through some of my favorite captain plays for this slate, talk about some of my favorite flex plays, and look at some stats for both of these teams as well. With that being said, let's dive into this spreadsheet. Alright, so we're going to kick things off here in the spreadsheet like we always do. In the top left-hand corner with those Vegas odds, you can see the Chargers are heading into Kansas City here on Thursday night. The Chiefs are favored to win right now, sitting on a money line of minus 195, and they're 4-point favorites. And then we got an over-under here of 54 points. Definitely some high-scoring potential in this game, obviously, considering both offenses. Now, I got these Showdown Stats here from 2021 behind me as well. I actually put those on a separate spreadsheet. I'm not going to go through those individually like I did last week, but if you want to take a screenshot of these or just pause the video right now, you can take a look at those six stats. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel or haven't seen my Showdown videos in the past, what I like to do is break down a couple of my favorite captain plays. We'll then dive into some of my favorite flex plays. You can see I put a captain consideration next to a number of those guys as well. And then we're actually going to wrap up the video breaking down each of these offenses from last week. I want to show you the guys that were on the field a lot, running a lot of routes, and who was getting a lot of opportunity. With that being said, let's dive into the captains here. And what I like to do is highlight a captain from both sides of this game. It's something I'm going to do in every single showdown. And on the Chiefs side of things, I like Patrick Mahomes this week. And there's a number of different guys on the Chiefs side that we could consider in the captain spot. Obviously, Travis Kelce, Juju played really well in week 1, or if you want to get a little more contrarian with a guy like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, you can see those guys in the flex spots below. But Mahomes, considering he spread the ball out to 10 different guys last week, throwing for 360 yards and 5 touchdowns, he has to be a captain consideration. There's very few quarterbacks in the NFL that can do that, where they make every single player on the field better. Mahomes is a special type of quarterback, we know that. And with that sneaky rushing upside as well, I kind of like him in the captain spot. He's always due for one of those games where he goes for 40 plus yards and finds the end zone. And at this price here, he's the most expensive player on Draftkings. I'm hoping that decreases his captain ownership just a little bit. Obviously, he's still going to be pretty popular, but at 17.7, that makes it really hard to fill out the rest of your lineup. So I haven't seen the ownerships quite yet on Wednesday night. I'll look at that tomorrow. I can let you guys know in the comments below what I'm seeing, but yeah, Mahomes right now looks good in the captain spot. Now, on the Chargers side of things, I like Austin Eckler, and again, similar scenario here, two of the better offenses in the NFL. We could put Herbert here, Mike Williams, even someone like Joshua Palmer who might benefit from Keenan Allen being out here this week. But I like Austin Eckler. He's one of the more expensive guys as well, but considering he only played about 50% of the offensive snaps in week 1, I think that might scare some people off of Eckler. If that is the case, I'll take even more shares of him, especially considering that Keenan Allen is going to be out. Austin Eckler will be more involved in the passing game, and this is a guy who's got a solidified role at the goal line, again, in one of the best offenses in the NFL. So, again, I don't know what the ownership looks like right now, but I suspect being that he only played 50% of the offensive snaps in week 1, that's going to scare some people. Now, before we dive into some of my favorite flex plays here, just want to take a quick minute to talk about one of the sponsors on this channel, Lucra. If you have not downloaded Lucra, it is completely free to get started. I'm actually going to throw a QR code up on the screen here right now. You can scan this with your phone. It's going to download the app, and once it does that, it's going to give you my referral code, which is GRIFF, GRIFF, and give you $25 in free play money. Now, you can use that free play money to compete against anybody, friends, family, or someone random. And if you win those contests, you'll actually see that free play money convert to real cash. So if you win enough of your contests with that free play money, you might legit never have to deposit a single dollar on Lucra. You can just build a bankroll from there. So again, I'll throw that QR code up on the screen one more time. You can scan this with your phone here. It'll download the app, include my referral code GRIFF, GRIFF, and give you that $25 in free play money. All right, now hopping on down here to some of my favorite flex plays. We're going to kick it off there with Justin Herbert, and just like Patrick Mahomes, we can consider him in the captain spot as well, because he's one of those special quarterbacks that makes everybody on the field better. We saw him spread the ball out to 9 different players last week. Just insane to see that, and you're going to actually see that at the end of this video where I break down both of those offenses. And take this with a grain of salt. But Herbert has dominated in primetime games. He's played 6 since he entered the NFL, and in those 6 games, he's averaging 300 passing yards per game and 4.5 passing touchdowns. Plus, on top of that, he's got 2 rushing touchdowns as well, and I believe 133 rushing yards. He's another guy that has that sneaky rushing upside, which is why I like him in the captain spot, especially if he's going to be spreading the ball out like he did last week. But that might be a little more condensed here this week, considering that Keenan Allen is out, but either way, I do like Herbert. And then I got the big dog there, Travis Kelce. I probably don't need to convince anybody to play this guy. Definitely a captain consideration, as I mentioned earlier, and remains the #1 pass catcher in this Chiefs offense. You know, like I said, Mahomes spread the ball out a lot last week, but Kelce was still the guy like he has been in years past. I know it's been more condensed with him and Tyreek Hill in the past, but Kelce definitely the #1 guy in this offense, and he's dominated this Chargers defense in the last 3 games, dating back to 2020. In those 3 games, he's racked up 38 targets, 317 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, and didn't have a bad game in any one of those games if you want to go look at the game log. So like I said, I don't need to convince you to play Travis Kelce. He's one of the more expensive guys as well, but the correlation with him and Mahomes is top tier. Now, Mike Williams was a little disappointing in week 1, but still a captain consideration for me in week 2. He doesn't always have the safest floor like we saw last week, but this guy might have one of the best ceilings in the NFL at his position. We actually saw that last year in week 3 against this Chiefs team where he had 7 catches, 122 receiving yards, and scored 2 touchdowns. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I probably will throughout this video. But again, being that Keenan Allen is out, you might see some more condensed targets on the Chargers side of things, and a few of those should go Mike Williams' way. I then got Juju Smith-Schuster there of the Kansas City Chiefs, who looked pretty damn good in his debut with the new team, but he also fumbled twice and lost one of those. I don't think it's a cause for concern here in week 2, but definitely a trend you don't want to see going forward, or he's going to get his ass off the field. Andy Reid does not put up with that, but he is a captain consideration for me here in week 2, considering how much he was involved in week 1. I mean, that was his debut, so you got to think that it's only going to get better going forward. He ran a majority of his routes in week 1 in the slot, so I do like that. Finished second on the team in targets, receptions, and receiving yards as well. He did not find the end zone, and I know Mahomes threw 5 passing touchdowns, but I think with the volume that he's getting, he can be a captain consideration, and I really like him as a flex play. We then got Marquez Valdes-Scantling there, who also made his debut with the Chiefs last week. Typically a deep threat wide receiver, but surprisingly only had an A-dot average depth of target at 5.5 last week. Now, if we look back at the last 2 years with the Green Bay Packers, he had an average A-dot of 18.2. Now, I think he'll regress towards that number a little bit. He probably won't be that high towards the end of the season, but he's still got that deep threat appeal, and he also led all Chiefs wide receivers in routes run in week 1. So he's got a solidified wide receiver 2 role behind Juju, and again, behind Kelce as the tight end, but at $6,400, I think it's a nice value play. Now, if you're still with me here at this point in the video, number 1, I do appreciate that. Number 2, if you could like and subscribe to this channel, that would mean a lot to me. I got a lot of football content coming your way this year, and for those of you who play NHL DFS or do NHL betting, I got plenty of content coming for that as well. Now, getting back to a few Chargers players here, Joshua Palmer at $5,000 is likely going to be very popular, especially considering that Keenan Allen has been listed as out. He should be on the field on all 2 wide receiver sets and especially 3 wide receiver sets. And if he is too chalky, I don't mind pivoting to Chargers number 3 wide receiver DeAndre Carter, who's $4,600 on this showdown. But Joshua Palmer is nice. He's a good player. He's only 23 years old. You know, I talked about this last week when I was breaking down the main slate. You know, Josh Palmer is a guy that Justin Herbert talked about all training camp. The upside with this guy is really nice, got some nice speed, so yeah, I obviously love him at this price here, $5,000, but honestly, he could be the most popular player on this slate, and if that's the case, I don't mind pivoting off of that. Next is Chargers tight end Gerald Everett, who had a nice week 1, 4 targets thrown his way, had 3 receptions, 54 receiving yards, and did find the end zone. He's always got that red zone appeal, and racked up 14.4 Draftkings points. Really nice value here at $4,800 for a guy that could find the end zone again, and maybe even twice in this game. He ran 23 routes compared to Trey McKitty's 13, tight end 2 in this Chargers offense. They did, however, both see 4 targets. So if you're looking to get really contrarian in your tournament lineups, you could go with someone like Trey McKitty, who is cheaper and again saw the same amount of targets as Everett last week. We then got Chargers kicker there, Dustin Hopkins, who definitely has double-digit DraftKings point upside, especially in what should be a high-scoring game on Thursday night. We saw him do that a handful of times just last year. Now, the Chiefs kicker situation certainly is a little more sketchy, being that Harrison Butker is out. They had a handful of guys come in this week and try out at the kicker position. It's probably something I'm going to avoid, but I did want to mention that. I look back to this stat from last year, number 4 there, that is right behind me, but kickers finished in the top 1% of lineups at a 34% rate last year. So, something I'm always considering putting kickers in my lineup. Probably not something I'm going to do if I have Justin Herbert in the captain spot, because you can see there, the kicker from his team lands in the top 1% of lineups at just a 19% rate when rostering the quarterback in the captain position. I got to move my fat head there. But yeah, Dustin Hopkins has that double-digit DraftKings point upside, so I definitely don't mind him here at this price at $3,800. And then I got Jerick McKinnon there of the Kansas City Chiefs. And hey, look, I know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a nice week 1, but the way he played just isn't sustainable, the efficiency that is. I mean, the guy scored 2 receiving touchdowns on 3 targets. Maybe that's sustainable in this Chiefs offense, but I highly doubt it. And look, you look at the notes here off to the right-hand side, McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually split snaps at the running back position, 27 apiece. McKinnon ran 18 routes in that game, had 4 targets and 4 carries, so he's kind of a nice low-price contrarian play here, especially with a lot of people eyeing Isaiah Pacheco. And look, Pacheco played well too. He had 12 carries in that game and scored a touchdown, but really didn't get involved until the 4th quarter when the Chiefs were dominating the Arizona Cardinals. And maybe that happens here on Thursday night where the Chiefs get out to a massive lead and you see Pacheco come in the second half or 4th quarter, but I highly doubt that here against this Chargers team. And then to wrap up the video here, as I mentioned, I want to show you both of these offenses from last week. Again, if you want to pause this, take a screenshot, by all means do that. I can even link this in the description below. It's a completely free article written by PFF, but it kind of just goes to show you who was involved last week, who was running a lot of routes, who was getting the targets, and who was getting the carries. And this is what happened on the Chiefs side of things. And then we got the Chargers offensive snap count here from last week. Again, we can ignore Keenan Allen. He's not going to play here in week 2. But you can see that Palmer and Carter were kind of the 2 guys that stepped up in his absence. If you want to throw a dart on a guy like Jalen Guyton, you could do that, but he didn't really play much last week. Again, you can kind of see the difference between Everett and McKitty. Both played a lot, but Everett did run more routes. So again, just breaking down these offenses here to show you who was involved in week 1. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. I got a lot of football content coming your way this year, but in the meantime, let's enjoy this Thursday night slate. Let's win a little money as well. I'm out of here.